In the last several years, we've been seeing, literally an anime war out there, an attack on the anime titles, the mangas. We've seen censorship in several different countries, including Australia and Russia and many others. And also, we've been getting inundated attacks on certain anime titles that gets released. And we see this on Twitter. We see it on Facebook and many other sites. Stuff that, you get Rise of the Shield Hero that has been attacked greatly and is being attacked again in its season 2 premiere. Then, of course, there's been Goblin Slayer, which, that had its issue, which was literally just episode 1. And a second season is coming out, and you're going to expect critics to attack it again. And then there are those, that, hey, listen, yeah, they did go a little bit over the top, like Redo the Healer, World's End Harem, but they're just all stories. They're just stories in itself. If you look at deep within it and don't consider the content of what's going on as the main crux of the video itself, it has an interesting story behind it. And that's what all these anime is and mangas, stories. And they go across all spectrums. I mean, as someone mentioned before, and I've mentioned it, there's a manga and anime out there for everybody. Whether you like sports, whether you like gaming, whether you like fantasy adventure, or maybe a mystery, a spy type, or maybe something with an LGBTQ content in it, a story of that nature. All of that is available out there to the consumer. And, those who have criticized anime and manga have no foot to stand on, really, truly. And the reason why we bring this up, and this has come out this past week, this came across my desk. There is a manga, and this was basically, it was controversial before when this happened recently, when Yen Press decided to change the title in the English translation, which I still to this day say it's incorrect that they did this. There's nothing wrong with the title. And the one I'm talking about is Mato Seihei no Slave, which the main translation is a slave of the Magic Capital's elite troops. Now, I don't see why Yen Press had to change the name. Did they have a problem with slave? They changed the title to Chained Soldier. But there's nothing wrong with a title having slave in it. If you've never heard, have you never heard of 12 Years a Slave? A movie that garnered a lot of critical acclaim and award nominations in itself. But you see the situation that there are those out there that don't even read the books, that they don't look at the anime itself, and yet they still criticize, or they might have flipped through a little bit, or they may have seen an episode of it and they're using that to critique it and not go through the whole series. But what we've gotten here from Slave of the Magic Capital is that they are getting their own anime sometime within either this year or into next year. And this is from the creator of Akame no Kill. If you're familiar with that one was a really, really good anime, and the manga was supposed to be fantastic. Now, I can't show you a lot of the photos on here, and there are a lot of the manga boards. I would say go out, check it yourself online. You can see it online. Some of it can be shown, some of it can't be. And the reason is, it gets a little over the top on there. And from what I've seen on there, it's like, ooh, yeah. But, so far what I've flipped through, I haven't seen anything really that major that's way above the nature. But yeah, listen, I flipped through two volumes of this, and it's about the same. If if you're looking at Wolves and Harem, it's not something from what I've seen so far of Redo the Healer, but it is a possibility on there. But there are stories that are made for youth to adult, and then there's stories that are made for kids. This is not something that's made for kids. This is that just because it's animated or anime, some people say anime, animated, doesn't mean it's always for kids. And that's the misconception that people have in the world, that they figure it's a cartoon and it should be for kids. For decades, we've had movies, TV series that are geared for different age groups. Of course, we've had the great kids cartoons throughout the years. Then we've had the action stuff, from the 80s and the 90s, the Transformers and the G.I. Joe and all that. And then of course we have the Bashki stuff with Heavy Traffic and Fritz the Cat, Heavy Metal, the movie, and many others. And you see the differences that go across when you look at what's being put out these days. I mean, right now, Spy X Family happens to be a brilliant anime and a brilliant manga. The manga has sold through very well, and the anime is doing excellent. It happens to be fun, adventurous. I mean, the daughter alone, the memes that are coming out of the daughter's face, and now the last episode, the father's face, his face, I expect him to be memes on there. But still, people are criticizing. I mean, one of the first critiques is saying that it was sexualization of children. No, this guy was treating the girl as her own daughter. Everything they think that it's this kind of violence and that and all that, but they're not looking at the anime itself or reading the books. Now, you may ask yourself, what is this series about? I'm going to read you a little bit of the synopsis for this series. When entrances to a different dimension known as the Mato emerges all over Japan, a new resource source known as peaches are discovered, which give it unique abilities only to women. However, dangerous monsters called the Yomotsudo Suki also roam throughout the Mato and have been responsible for various disasters ever since. To combat them, the government has formed the Anti-Demon Corps, an elite group of women who have received powers from the peaches. One day, a high school student named Yuki Watsura was walking home from school when he suddenly got lost in the Mateo entrance. When he calls for help, he is immediately rescued by Kaiokan Usin, the chief of the 7 unit of the Anti-Demon Corps. Recognizing his potential while also needing him to make her peach powers more effective, she asks Yuki to join the Anti-Demon Corps by becoming her slave, a position he might find more enjoyable than he initially thought. As you could hear from the title itself, I mean, this is almost sounding like High School DxD in a way as well. And, you've had the complaints on High School DxD, but, not as bad as everything else that's been out in the last couple of years. Now, I'm curious, the original publication is by Shueisha. I'm wondering if Joanne is going to be involved with this production. And we've discussed Joanne before as far on there. From what I understand, it's supposedly 7 arcs would be behind this. Basically, it is interesting what's going to happen at this point level. Like I said, it looks interesting to see, say the least. Like I said, I liked Akame no Kill. It happened to be a good anime on that. I just finished that a couple of months ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And to get something like this in that sort of anime style, or the drawing for the manga, which looks similar if you look at the anime itself, the original Akame no Kill anime and their manga, and look at this and match this up, you'll see that there are some similarities to the characters. Will it do good? I don't know. I haven't, the story's out there. The manga is out there. The anime will be soon, and we hope the best for it. And, we hope that the critique of it, as it's been blasted by the shills on Twitter, don't, go into it and just stay quiet, for once. I mean, you had a couple of others that were, that just completely died out on there that nobody really cared about. You had the anime about the guy who took a 16-year-old home, and people were freaking out on that. And then, you had a couple of others that they just were losing their minds on. And this is a constant attack all the time. These people, they sit there and they criticize. This is the 90s all over again. In the 90s, they were slamming music, they were slamming video games, the violence on TV. They didn't touch anime, really. They didn't really touch anime. If you look at the stuff from the 80s and 90s, there was some great stuff then, great animation. Akira and Ghost in the Shell, and many others that have been, in the spotlight for many years and still is today, very popular on there. I mean, look, we got a new last season of Bleach coming very soon in the next couple of months. And, we hope that it ends, very nicely, on there. And we're seeing anime studios, we had that story before, and then we mentioned Joanne before. The combination of WIT, Clover, Shueisha, and Aniplex, combining together to make one company. So we'll see what happens with Mato no Slave, and we'll keep looking at this as it comes along.